Good morning and good Friday, everyone who's celebrating Christian Holy Week. I am the Data Lord. This is Jaime.
At your
Welcome to
service.
Decentralized TV, Crypto and Coffee, where we talk about crypto, we drink about coffee. And today, people are celebrating spring. They're celebrating hiding candy from kids, which is hilarious. They're celebrating spending time with family and loved ones. So we hope that you are also joining in those festivities because, watching kids cry because they open something up and there's nothing in the egg, that's really funny.
Okay. You're an evil man. Conspiracy Friday is true, guys.
So, hey, what's up? Go ahead and throw a what's up in the chat, and we will throw you some love. I see you, 20 Mining. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
So let's take a look at what's going on in our little markets here. Okay. So you can see everything's pretty flat. Everything's within like 1%. Nothing super exciting. And why is it happening? Well, because nothing happened. And that's okay.
Although next week is
supposed
to be quite an exciting week because that's when Shanghai merge, and
Right.
I forget the secondary name, but there's two deployments that are occurring next week in the Ethereum blockchain. And that's why you're seeing a little more enthusiastic than Bitcoin at the moment.
Right. Yeah. And if you were to see the types of coins that get pumped, there's things you shouldn't be in the first place. Only one that's barely notable is Terra Luna Classic, and I don't know about that either.
Yeah, the classic is sus, according to our experts.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Oh, there we are.
Oh, okay. What's up? I see you, Indo. Good morning, brother.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Crypto Scout. I see you. And Jaime, if you would,
yes,
learn us
absolutely.
on the Bitcoin.
And I'll take off with Crypto Stout's first comment, CPI next week also. So there's Consumer Price Index, which indicates the inflation. We're going to be able to gather a bit of information out of it. So there's quite a bit going on. And of course, it's tax season. So there's a lot going on in the financial world. And of course, Bitcoin is one of those leading indicators on the financial world. If we're looking at it on the monthly scale, which I just flipped to at the moment, and you're seeing live at this moment on the right, it's all red or holding, but it's very low percentage gains and or losses. So this is what we've been looking at, that huge annual, biannual level. What a coincidence. We ran right into it, barely just dug into that layer, and now we're pulling back slightly. Of course, this is very early. This is the monthly. What we're looking for by end of April is that we do not break down below the 50 moving average, which is sitting at 24,693. When I say break below, I do not mean we can wick below it, but we should close. So the fat part of the candle should be above 24,600 for this to remain a bullish chart, a bullish rising chart. So we will talk about that by the end of April. We'll be diving deep into it. So let's move on to a lower time frame. So we just jumped into the weekly. On the weekly, you can see we had this nice pump right up. And for the last 1, 2, and now we're on the third week, we have remained in this level. Each one of these candles are indecision candles. There's a wick above, there's a wick below, and we're just hovering there. And you can see there is a rise on the impetus, RSI, which shows the strength of the rise. It's been following this median above it. Now, if we dive deeper into this, here's the Gaussian channel, which was brought up by one of our viewers recently. You can see that we rose above it. We tapped the bottom, confirmed it as the bottom. This is where I missed my $59 by $59 the buy to get into it. But you can see there were two nice impulses out of the Gaussian, and now there seems to be a curve coming back down. So either we're going to test the top of the Gaussian at 25,500 as support, confirm it as support, or as we've done in the past, you can see that it can hit the median and then continue on up. So the median is sitting at 22,200. So 25.5, 22,200, and the bottom of this is around 19.5, more or less. So that's what we're looking at as a pullback. Remember, we've been speaking in terms of the pullback to be a healthy one. So let's now zoom in to the low time frames. This is the lowest I usually look at. Look at what we've been doing. This is the cinder block wall we've been discussing for the last few weeks. What is this? Like 3 weeks, where Bitcoin has risen solidly into it and has been trying to dig in. This week, remember, this is holiday weekend, so the stock market is not open, but Bitcoin is. That our puppy never closes. So here's what we're looking at. Either we break above this cinder block wall soon to at least test to 200 moving average, or sitting at around 32,800, or do we pull back to those levels where we regain the strength and then reattempt the breakthrough? And that will be defined in this weekend into next week. By Monday, we will review where we're at. But remember the rule number 1, never long into resistance. So never buy in hoping it goes up. At the bottom of the ceiling, make sure we break the cinder block. Then it's safer to buy into it. Or if we pull back, then start buying the pullback with the expectation that it will break right through it. As long as we do not break important levels like the 21,300 level, which was the last breakdown, the FTX breakdown back in November. As long as we stay above that, we remain bullish. We may wick below it, so don't fear if you see a wick below. But as long as we close above this level, which is the 50 moving average, we remain bullish. So Bitcoin, do what you need to do. We're very patient souls. We will not tell you what to do, as we know life, how it works. But as Bitcoin reacts, that's how we can make decisions based on probabilities, not hopium or expectations or my gut feeling. No, let Bitcoin tell you what it's going to do, and we react to it. So it's looking good, guys. It's looking good. The fact that it's staying up there, if it stays too long, it's not too good. So this weekend, yes, exactly. So if you notice, very good point, Brandon. The price has been rising. It actually went above this channel and now is back into the channel, and yet the strength has been diminishing. These are called bearish divergences. I actually grabbed a lot of traders' formulas and built this for personal use, which I can share to whomever wants it. But this is what we're looking at. There are bearish divergences, so meaning the rocket fuel is pulling back, and yet the price continues to rise. The good news is that this is a short term. We're looking at the 3-day. So what that indicates to us is that we may not break through unless there's a black swan event like bank failures, like massive banks going to shit. Yeah. Then at that point, who the hell cares what the strength is? Failure like that is rocket fuel to Bitcoin, like we experience it right here when Signature Bank and all the SI banks went under, which we'll go deep dive into it shortly. But if a black swan does not occur, the chart tells you that it's running out. So there needs to be a healthy pullback to refuel the rocket and now punch through this cinder block ceiling we see above us. So we're good, guys. We're good overall. Bitcoin is going to do what it's going to do. We just have to act accordingly. And that's it, Brandon. Any questions?
It's DCA Friday too. So make sure if you're one to DCA, which you should be, you just have a pocket. You just put some money in that every Friday. And the big idea here is you just buy a little bit and you ride that middle line, baby. And
that's right. Who cares what Bitcoin decides? You know, the long run, Bitcoin will do what it's programmed to do, which is a hedge against all these bank shenanigans.
That's meant to decouple you from getting your emotions played with, because a lot of people don't have the strong hands and the principles to trade properly and not get taken advantage of. So if even if you are a good trader, I still recommend you have a DCA that's a
Yes.
different pocket that you don't really touch,
Yes.
and then have a different pocket that you do trade with, because you can certainly gain more satoshis if you
If you
play
want to
that chain
trade.
right.
Exactly. So, and my experience, me learning to trade, I really paid through for that class. So it's higher risk. I should have just DCA'd for it, but if I wouldn't have done it, I wouldn't have learned what I'm sharing with you right now. So I'm just sharing my own experience
I'm a little embarrassed.
based on.
Sorry, I lost some money once
I did.
on a time.
I had to restart a couple of times. But DCA, Brandon is absolutely right. If you understand what Bitcoin's purpose is, what it was engineered to do, and gold itself is another good hedge, silver, etc. So things that are real money, not fiat, which just look at history. Not a single fiat has ever lasted forever, ever. And now we're seeing with BRICS and everything, there's some problems going on with dollars dominance, world dominance. So hedge yourselves. Everyone must hedge.
We'll talk about it today. Trust me.
Yes.
You're not that guy, pal. Trust me. Shall we get into our stories? Look, I'm just going to come out the gate. I'm going to say I won't. Say I won't.
Do it.
Say I won't.
Do it.
So we're just going to go out the gate. This is our headliner here.
Yes.
Apple's homage to Satoshi. This surprised me. Bitcoin white paper is
Amazing.
hidden in the Mac OS. No kidding.
And this was from the last update. This has not always been there. In the last Mac OS update, boom, all of a sudden the white paper, Bitcoin's white paper is hidden in there.
Yeah. So does this mean that Apple's pro Bitcoin? Should we expect to see Apple do some Bitcoin payment integrations? I don't know what this means. Either way, let's read. In a surprise discovery, technology blogger Andy Bao has found that a copy of groundbreaking Bitcoin white paper has been securely included in Apple's macOS. Bao confirmed the presence of the file in all versions of macOS since 2018, from Mojave to Ventura. A device named Virtual Scanner 2 stores the Bitcoin white paper within the image capture utility. In order to be able to see the Bitcoin white paper, users can open a terminal on their Mac and type a specific command. Alternatively, they can navigate through the file system in Finder.
Which I did. I saw it.
I seen it.
I seen it. It's real.
The inclusion of the Bitcoin white paper in macOS raises questions about Apple's motivations. As reported by You Today, CEO Timothy Cook confirmed that he was a cryptocurrency owner back in 2021. Oh wow, he's a real early adopter there.
Yes,
that's a joke. It's like, bro, like you're in tech and you just popped in. Okay, what's up? Well, welcome. Hi.
Yes.
Coffee's over there. You know,
he's seeing the writing on the wall, guys. Back in 2021.
Let's talk about it. It is unknown whether the decision to include the document was intentional or an oversight by a Bitcoin enthusiast within the company. The selection of the white paper could be attributed to its compact size, making it suitable for testing purposes. Fair point. Nothing new. A post from a member of the Apple community from 2021 also highlighted the presence of the white paper, but no explanation has been provided by Apple or its employees. The mystery remains unsolved as curious users continue to explore the hidden Easter egg in macOS. All the way back in 2020, a Twitter user, Josh D., discovered the device on his Mac, which displayed a preview of a painted sign resembling a photo by Thomas Hawk. He later found the device and noticed it contained a PDF of the iconic Bitcoin white paper. The purpose of Virtual Scanner 2 remained unclear. A reliable source has informed Bao that the issue was reported internally almost a year ago and was assigned to the very engineer responsible for placing the PDF in the system initially. Ha! Got him, coach. However, that individual has not taken any action yet. I don't think they will. I think this is actually good press for Apple.
It is.
We're talking about them right now. So, I mean, hey, you got DCTV, you know, the famous DCTV that everyone knows.
That's awesome. That's awesome, guys.
What do you think about Apple doing this, guys? You know, what's up? Crypto Scouts, I see has risen. I see you, JV.
Absolutely. JV, good morning.
To you. Rocky Fuel for the Dirty Shovel getting to punch through that BTC voice box. I'm gonna punch you in the throat. Yeah, we're with it. What do you think about this whole Apple white paper thing? Cool? Intentional? Do you think some people are kind of manufacturing hype? What do you think that is? Let us know.
It's great. I mean, if this was that employee who had to solve a specific problem and then drops in an Easter egg, which is known,
sure,
like Microsoft.
Top of my list, buddy.
There you go. Let's do it. And so it's quite encouraging to see organizations of that size to be involved and pretty much showing support, directly or indirectly, for Bitcoin itself, showing understanding. So it encourages even this type of scavenger hunts, an Easter egg out of all things, to be planted. And it came out right for Easter weekend.
It's an Easter egg, pun intended, right?
Absolutely.
So let's look at this next one. U.S. presidential candidate Robert Kennedy says Fed now is the first step to banning Bitcoin.
And many other things, guys.
Yeah. Let's talk about it, huh?
Yes. Conspiracy Fridays. Here we are. Let's deep dive.
Yeah, this is getting more into the news even, which is uncomfortable. Robert Kennedy Jr. says a central bank digital currency could lead to financial slavery and political tyranny. Yeah, you think? So let's read the news.
If I may, just for anyone who's not comfortable with what a CBDC is, they're literally grabbing Bitcoin's technology. Good morning, Boston CEO. Good Friday morning. They are using the blockchain technology to issue dollars. Now, so many people, if the government could have tracked every single dollar bill in the past, they would have been able to see when it went to, let's say, drug use and so many other things, and what each and every person was doing with their dollar bill. You could have better control of your population. You have better control of everything. Well, CBDCs are that report back to headquarters. They will be able to see where it goes, what geographic location it goes, what it was used for, if they can track the purpose of it, why it went from this wallet to that wallet, but they can actually see where everything went. So that's the danger of central bank digital currency or coin. They will be able to do this. China's already in it, but we'll dive deeper into why Robert Kennedy Jr. is mentioning this.
Social credit scores, all that. But so Robert Kennedy Jr., a presidential candidate in the United States, believes the Federal Reserve digital payment system, FedNow, is the government's first step to banning Bitcoin. Don't like that. According to Kennedy, people should not be blinded by claims that FedNow would be initially restricted to interbank transactions. Right. We already have Ripple for that. Why do we need this one? Who needs FedNow when you got Ripple Nipple? He pointed, and that's what they say in the back rooms. He pointed out that this could be the first step in banning and seizing Bitcoin, as the Treasury did with gold 90 years ago, today in 1933.
Yep.
And just so people know, that literally happened. The federal government was like, you need to give us all your gold. It's a rule.
And you could go to prison if you didn't do it. Like, guys, everybody, just Google gold confiscation.
So
you'll see it.
Contrary to constitutional values, because you have a right to life, liberty, and property. They don't have the right to take your property from you by decree. That's not constitutional whatsoever. So overreach in the highest degree. The Fed announced that the FedNow payment system would be launched in July. The payment system is designed to allow bill payments, money transfers, and other activities to move faster and at lower cost. Several crypto stakeholders have pointed out that this move could be the government's way of competing against the industry. Meanwhile, the U.S. government's recent crackdown in crypto industry has been described as Operation Choke Point 2.0, aka Choke Your Mama.
Yep. We'll deep dive
AKA
into that.
choke your mama, AKA not my coins, not my Bitcoin, not my keys. Law firm Cooper and Kirk. That's a nice name. Sounds like something out of Daredevil or something, you know. Says the backroom war on crypto was unlawful, unconstitutional, and arbitrary. Oh. Kennedy highlights the dangers of CBDCs. The Democrat equated the Fed now to a central bank digital currency, highlighting several dangers that this portends.
Yeah.
I don't like
Forecasts.
that word. I don't like that
Forecasts.
word. I don't
Yes.
like it. Oh, I portend my pants.
Foreshadows.
Yeah, it sounds like you pooped. For U.S. citizens, according to Kennedy Jr., CBDCs grease the slippery slope to financial slavery. Ooh, I like the alliteration on that. Slippery slope to financial slavery.
It is. Yeah.
It's great alliteration. And political tyranny. He noted that the government could use the digital currency to survey all private financial affairs. That's the big issue.
Yes.
This falls into like Patriot Act level. Hey, I want to watch you shower and poop.
Yeah. And remember, right
Not
now,
good.
how do they track you? Is the moment you deposit any amount above, I don't know, 5,000.
600, I think, is the number now.
The bank
Gotcha.
is required to ask where it came from, or if you're taking it out, where it's going. So that's what they have now. With this CBDC, they don't have to ask. They will see where it goes, and they have full control of yanking it or expiring it in your hands. So
Yoinking
be
it.
careful.
Mm-hmm. He explained that the digital currency could give the government power to freeze citizens' assets or even limit their spending when they fail to comply with arbitrary diktats. Oh, no one wants to get a diktat. Oh, no.
No, it hurts.
Oh, bro, I'm good. No diktats here. No.
Yeah,
All
decrees,
right.
in other words.
We're popping off in the chat. Let's
Yeah.
It says Robert Kennedy is gaining a lot of attention for these remarks. Crypto community has been very receptive with him, at least with what it looks like on Twitter. Thanks for that. Nemesis says that the ESG credit system. What's up? Good morning, Nemesis.
Good morning, Nemesis.
We're
all raising with you, brother.
You have used too much carbon this month. You can't eat today. Yeah.
Guys, this is happening in Asia, in China. Like, that's what they're using the CBDC for.
Right. Yeah, JB says, I appreciate the history here. Yeah, I don't know if that's true or not, Ripple, but it kind of feels that way too. Yeah.
Well, that's the thing, though.
Yeah.
Fed now is the replacement. Like you said, hey, we already have Ripple. Well, no, they're going to crush Ripple Nipple and say, no, this is what everyone's going to use.
I mean, they can still use the tech of Ripple Nipple under the hood, but yeah. So in the EU, they do this by moving around gold bars. Yeah.
The physical, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Into the whole 600, I think, is like anytime you deposit 600, it's reported to the IRS. I think that's what I was mixing up.
Really?
But either way, it's still not their business, man.
Yeah.
It's not their business, bud.
The government is there to protect the citizens, not control them. Well, you clearly are seeing the shift from our elected officials going into the control mode. Or who knows, maybe Democrats and Republicans come in, but everyone who remains, no matter who comes into the power, the deep state or everyone that remains despite of who leads, that's where this control is coming from. So
yeah. What's up, Gunday? Good morning, Crypto Nation. I see you, brother. And Boss Don's got his tinfoil hat on. Good to see you, brother. So the big idea here is simply people like to look at politics like it's like Republicans versus Democrats, red versus blue kind of thing.
It shouldn't be that.
But it's not that way. You have people who are pro liberty and people who are pro authority. People who want the government to tell them what to do, and people who want to decide what they want to do with their own life, liberty, and property. Because the Constitution just enshrines rights you were given by your creator is the idea here, right? It's called natural law. So, God himself, created mankind and gave each person the right to life, liberty, and property. That's why he got so mad, for example, at like Cain killing Abel, because he took Abel's life. That was not his life to take, right? And later you see people stealing people's things, like the majority of, the Judeo-Christian civil law, just for example, it's like people have the right to their property. They have the right to their life, and they have the right to travel freely where they want to go, and you don't have the right to impede on that, right? And
Mhm.
so that's the whole concept here, regardless of what your beliefs are.
Yeah.
That's where the U.S. Constitution's value system comes from. And
It's
so,
funny. What? Go
yeah,
ahead.
what's funny? What's up?
What Gandhi says, "I don't choose sides. I hate everyone equally."
Yeah,
So, but but on that note, the data lord and I have had those conversations where even in my own choices, when I
right,
go to vote, I don't go by one color. I literally go see who's been doing the best for my community where I'm at. I
sure,
don't care where they come from, as long as they are pro community or our immediate families that live in
right.
that area. That's who gets my vote. We're looking for us, the protection, the constitutional
Right.
rights given to us by this country.
And thanks for that. The whole idea is that the government only exists to protect constitutional rights that are
Mhm.
enshrined in the
Should
Constitution. You have
only
a
exist.
right to life, liberty, and property. So you're supposed to vote for people who represent your, interpretation of that in your local area, and they're supposed
Mhm.
to generally represent you, is the idea, right? And so what's happening though is you have what's called a deep state. That's people who maybe swear an oath to uphold the Constitution, but really they have ulterior motives and they're upholding something other than the Constitution, and they're representing someone other than their, constituents in that area, right? So, um, regardless of whether they're red or blue, and we have a lot of these people who are willing to sell out, for example, the United States to other countries, and to do things that are clearly contrary to the well-being of our country and the people who voted them in. So, um, when we say deep state, that's all we mean. People who are pretending to have
Career
your
men.
best interests in mind, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're career men in politics, literally. And we've all met career men and women in whatever
Mhm.
industry we're in. All they're there is to protect themselves, look for their own benefit, not the community. That's money, etc., at
They're trying to
the
make
expense of
paper
everyone
and,
else.
and go on vacations to Jeffrey Epstein's island. So, I mean, it's unfortunate, but I mean, here's the idea though. Like, if you think that there is no God and you're not accountable to him, and you functionally want to elevate yourself to godhood, I mean, why is that wrong for you to take whatever you want? That's the concept, right? Like the whole "do what thou wilt" thing. And so, like, yeah, if there is no moral foundation, it makes sense that people say, you know what, if I'm strong enough to uh have sex with anyone I want to, I'm going to. And if I'm strong enough to take whoever's things I want, I will. And if I'm strong enough to harm anyone who's in my way, I will. And that whole concept is disregarding the God-given rights to life, liberty, and property, right? Because you're saying, I'll take what I want because I think that I'm God and I'm giving myself that permission. And so, unfortunately, there are some people who think this way,
Yes.
and you can't live in a civil society if you function in that way. The only way civil society works is I respect you and you respect me. We don't got to like each other. Get off my lawn, right?
Mhm.
Like good fences make great neighbors is the idea. So if we stay in our own uh life, liberty, and property bounds, and I don't mess with yours, we don't got to agree on anything other than stay off my lawn, right? Like, that's the whole idea. Keep your dog off my property. How's that sound? Like, so anyways, my I hope that context is useful, everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, Nemesis. I mean, and some people do that. They vote based on teams, and there's people who do that for red and blue, and
Yeah.
I don't. It's the
I'm not.
wrong
I don't
call.
subscribe to that, but that's why we're in this country. Is we're free to choose as we do. But Brandon and I and a lot of our community members, we put people that are vested in the
Right.
community and the
Yep.
Constitution.
And Bitcoin is fundamentally constitutional money, is the idea
Yes,
too. It's not American money. It's individuals' money. It
world
doesn't
money.
it doesn't recognize any. It's not even world, because world could say there's one world government that owns it. It's not even that. It's individual. Each
Mhm,
person is sovereign under Bitcoin. So,
mhm,
getting back to arbitrary diktats. Come on, who
mhm.
writes this stuff, man? Uh, the presidential candidate added, "Watch as governments which never let a good crisis go to waste." And
That's a
don't
philosophy,
ain't
a
that
true
true?
philosophy
They use COVID-19, for example, and the
for
banking
the
crisis to
Patriot
usher
Act.
in a new wave of CBDCs as a safe haven from the germ laden paper currencies, or as protection against bank runs. Kennedy is a nephew of President John F. Kennedy and the son of U.S. Attorney General and New York Senator Robert F. Kennedy. So these are this whole family is a very intellectual thinking family. So pay attention if you see any F. Kennedy, person. So and your mama,
Absolutely.
listen to your mama.
So he's seeing the light. Florida is seeing the light on what CBDCs can do. Just look into the countries. Again, okay, we're going to deep dive into it, but just watch what is happening with CBDCs elsewhere. Look at Nigeria, look at China, and look how it's being used. If you don't believe us, don't believe Kennedy, don't believe the Florida guy.
Trust but verify.
Trust but verify. Please do that for your own sake. And
like, oh, that's nice. I'm still going to look it up,
Yeah.
So New York regulator confirms crypto did not sink Signature Bank. And dude, I've had so many people who are not into crypto, who are just normal people. Peter calls them green beans, right? Who are asking me constantly, like, what's going on with these banks crashing? What's going on with Bitcoin and the banks crashing? And I'm like, dude, like, the fact that they're asking that means that their media outlets are actually like talking about these things, right? So here's your answer, to answer people who have those questions. So,
and if I may, before you start reading it,
you may.
Narrative is very important. The context here of what is happening. So remember, all of you that are here are the last class of the early adopters. Everyone here present. But we have this whole world of people that have heard of Bitcoin or have heard of cryptocurrencies, and in their head, and it's two different things, guys. So keep that in mind, do your own research. But narrative is very important, because we even had, Brandon, we've had that conversation with other people where they were like, hey, Bitcoin's in trouble because of FTX. It's almost like they're relating these scams as if it were triggered by Bitcoin. And that's what a lot of people that are against Bitcoin and this peer-to-peer money interchange system, they're trying to create a narrative that it's because of crypto that all these failures are occurring, without looking into the facts of, no, there are plants out there that are wrecking the industry on purpose and blaming it, trying to point the finger to crypto. So everyone who's not informed, all they're reading is what biased newspapers, biased government representatives are pushing, which we know most people do not verify. They just follow the crowd. And if the crowd says this is true, it must be true. And this is what we're swimming against with these articles.
Yeah, and Nemesis also said, you want to make change in your local government, start looking at your schools for future politicians, since that's where they start, and that's why the schools are so broken now. And that's true. Like you have to just make sure everyone is educated and taken care of, because those kids grow up to be adults, and those adults do get jobs, and some of those kids get jobs in the government. So
yes, and make decisions, uninformed decisions.
Government cheese in the projects. Let's read it. So New York regulator confirms crypto did not sink Signature Bank. Nice. Gross blood. Stop it. The New York State Department of Financial Services has spoken out about the role of crypto in the downfall of Signature Bank. Contrary to the current wave of attacks on the industry in the United States, it's not all bad news. Speaking at a crypto industry conference on March 5th, the New York DFS superintendent Adrian Harris confirmed that crypto was not the cause of the closure. Federal regulators shuttered Signature Bank in mid-March, citing concerns about the systemic risks posed to the crypto-focused bank.
The crypto-focused bank.
I'm sorry. Thank you. However, the mainstream media blamed crypto in its usual flurry of FUD following the events. Harris confirmed that the action was due to the bank's liquidity, not because it had digital asset clients. Do you hear that? They had a liquidity problem, meaning they're probably doing fractional. So furthermore, she described the events leading up to the failure as a new-fashioned bank run. Signature has a high percentage of uninsured deposits and lacked liquidity management protocol. Do you hear that? They weren't doing basic things to make sure they didn't crap the bed. To meet withdrawal requests. So basically, the whole idea here is that a lot of times banks don't have your money. They lent it out to somebody and they get paid interest on those loans, and so they're hoping that you won't come and say, "Hey, I need my money," and they'll be like, "Yeah, sure." And then John asks, "Hey, I need my money." He's like, "Yeah, sure." And Gundy asks, "Hey, I need my money," and you say, Gundy, you don't have any money. And then they ask Gundy's mom, and she's like, "Yeah, I'll give Gundy some money." And then Gundy's like, "Hey, can I get some money out?" And like, actually, you can't because everyone else took their money out. There's no money here to give you. And so that's the idea, right? If
And that's the problem with
everyone's
fractional.
asking for their money out at the same time, at some point the banks are like, "We don't actually have that in
Right.
stock at the moment. You have to give us 2 weeks, a month, whatever, and we'll get that to you." And people are like, "Well, I want it now," and they lose their crap over it, right? And they usually relay that information to other people, and they panic too, and they all start going, and that's where bank runs start, right? People panic at the news that they can't get their money out, and so everyone's trying to get their money out, even if they weren't going to in the first place, right? So, kids these days, am I right? Yeah. So Signature Bank had around $4 billion of deposits related to its crypto asset banking business, according to Federal Deposit Insurance Corp, or FDIC. Who's making these acronyms is what I want to know. Like dictats, and I don't know about that. Don't blame crypto for Signature Bank. U.S. regulators have been heavily targeting crypto this year following the collapse of FTX in November. Decentralized forms of money pose a threat to the traditional banking system because they're actually good. No, that's a joke, but that's true too. And financial regulators are trying to protect that institution. Do you hear that? Decentralized forms of money pose a threat to the traditional banking system, and financial regulators are trying to protect that institution. So it's kind of like, hey, you're hurting our whole system. It's like, yeah, but it's a bad system. They're like, yeah, but it's mine and I like it. It's like, well, it's hurting people, so that's too bad. However, Harris is one of the few that does not see crypto as the root of all evil, according to Wall Street Journal. She said, the idea that taking possession of Signature was about crypto, and this is choke point 2.0, is really ludicrous, is what she's saying. Operation Choke Point 2.0 refers to the notion that regulators are plotting to kill crypto and cut it off from the banking system. Harris had a more positive outlook toward crypto than any other regulatory agency chief. However, she said that the sectors lack maturity, and we know that. We're aware it lacks maturity, and we're trying to mature it quickly. But when you have things that require a lot of technical expertise, you get people who are really good at the tech, but they may not have business sensibilities. And then once the tech's proven, you might get some weird people who have both tech, propensities and business sensibilities, and they're able to kind of bridge that gap a bit, and that's called crossing the chasm. And once that chasm's really crossed, and you're able to get early adopters connected with early majority, at that point you see normal business people come in and really start to use it, and that's because the tech has been polished enough that it's just kind of containerized, if that makes sense. So yeah, Gundy says that learning curve is humongous, and he remembers his first crypto purchase.
Well, same here. We're different people nowadays because we took the journey.
Yeah. So there's still a lack of maturity around Bank Secrecy Act, anti-money laundering, compliance, and cybersecurity. It's a lot of jargon. We're eager for the days when those systems mature and scale as the business side does. So on March 5th, Be Crypto reported that there were no links. Hear this clearly. There were no links between stablecoin issue Tether and Signature Bank's downfall. Signature Bank's downfall happened because they were bad at business, or because there's some conspiracy under the hood where they were intentionally doing things poorly so that they could create a convenient crisis. I don't know which. It could be either, but it's Friday, so I put my hat on.
Hell yeah. That's why we do this.
It's a nice hat. That is a nice foil hat, bro. Where'd you get that, bro? Where'd you get that?
Looking good.
Making Play-Doh snakes. So yeah, we won't read the rest of that. So here's what Jaime wanted to talk about, right? So like, connect the dots, please, right? The European Central Bank, this is for UJV, as a European, head reveals CBDCs could be used for control amid banking crisis. And can everyone comment on how tacky that scarf is? Why would you wear that on stage? Speaking of crimes, that is a fashion crime. It's not a good look, honey.
Hey, it's European. It's good. Okay.
Yeah. Okay, bud. Okay. Sounds good to you, bud. In a widely shared prank video, Christine Lagarde, is it Lagarde or Lagarde?
Lagarde.
The president of European Central Bank (ECB) has admitted that a digital euro, a central bank digital currency (CBDC) that is currently planned for release in the near future, would be used in a limited way to control the payments that individuals can make. I hate that sentence.
Yes. It starts
Stop
all limited. It all starts limited. But
Well,
wait,
we know it's been good for you, so you just trust us. We won't take advantage of you. Trust us. The clip in which Lagarde is led to believe she is talking about the Ukrainian president Volodymyr Zelensky originates from a video platform Rumble channel show VL, in which speaker prank interviews public figures shared on March 16th. There will be control, discussing the active backlash in Europe over the possible introduction of the digital euro. The person pretending to be Zelensky suggests that the problem is they don't want to be controlled by a CBDC. To which Lagarde acknowledged that there will be control. You're right. You're completely right. But specifying it would be a limited amount of control. And that's the thing. Like, you can't trust if they're like, I'm only going to take a little bit. Like what happens if you and your significant other hanging out, it's like, hey, you want fries? Like, no, I don't want fries. It's like, okay, it's cool. I'll get a large fry. And then you get sit down, whatever, and your girl comes over and just starts eating your fries. She's like, I thought you said you didn't want some. What are you doing? My wife does that with Chipotle chips too. So, I'll just take a little bit, eats half my bag. It's like that though. Like once they get a taste of it, they want the whole thing, right? And I'm not calling my wife the central bank, by the way. I'm not saying that. Honey, I'm not saying that. However, she also said this could be dangerous. A very small, totally anonymous transaction could still and has been known to finance terrorist attacks entirely, such as 10 years ago in France. As an argument for CBDCs, Lagarde voiced her desire for Europe not to be dependent on any unfriendly country's currency, such as China or Russian currencies, or a friendly currency, but which is activated by a private corporation entity like Facebook or Google, that could take the sovereignty of Europe. These are actually good questions, though, legitimately. Like, you want to make sure that you don't have a technocracy, right?
of course.
And yeah,
They have their own vested interest.
It works that way. CBDCs versus crypto. It should also be noted that Lagarde has been concerned about the growth of cryptocurrencies and their threat to the traditional banking system, claiming in September 22 that the rise of crypto assets could hinder the role of central banks as an anchor of the economy, as well as demanding greater oversight over the crypto industry. And the assets, she said, were worth nothing. Yeah, they're totally worth nothing. Bitcoin to the moon, max bidding.
And there are some that are worth nothing, for sure.
There are. You don't want to get rubber ducky coin, trust me. You're not that guy, pal. More recently, in February 2023, Finbold reported on the progress of ECB's plans around the digital euro introduction, which prioritizes e-commerce and person-to-person payments during the first phase of the CBDC release, followed by other contexts such as physical stores and government payments in the second phase. Meanwhile, speculation has been mounting about the banking crisis in the United States was a ploy with an aim to accelerate the adoption of CBDCs. And I'm feeling like that's a true statement.
It is. And we have an article coming up that deep dives into this.
As Nick Carter, not the Backstreet Boy, the general partner at Castle Island Ventures, said that the recent turmoil strengthened the political case for CBDCs as no one trusts commercial banks anymore. Ain't that the truth?
And the challenge, yeah.
This isn't even a U.S. issue alone. This is like U.S. and a European issue. And this goes into Asian countries too. So,
yes, it's the banking system, fractional reserve banking. And Nemesis, you're right on what you said. Signature Bank and Silicon Valley Bank all have treasury bonds, which is required by the banks to do so, that yield less than the loans they gave out and are insolvent because of the money printing, making bond yields lower. So, as part of the fractional reserve system, they're supposed to put it into these T bonds. So now imagine they're having to loan out and also acquire an asset that earns way less than what they could earn on the open market. It reverses everything. And that article, this is the article we're going to look into, deep dives into that subject. And remember what transpired. So we had these 3 banks, crypto-based banks, which seems, and we'll see in this article, as a targeted shot that killed those 3 banks because they're in the cryptosphere. But the outcome was we had Deutsche Bank and a few other massive banks affected by it. So they imploded one sector targeting, but there was collateral damage on the side because they are also built on that same structure of these T-bonds. So this is a good article. I don't know if you want to read it or you want me to read it. What do you feel like?
I'll read you give commentary. Yeah.
Okay, beautiful.
And then you can insult my pronunciation. It's perfect.
Sure. And White's Ratings, by the way, guys, is an institution that's been around since the 1920s of the previous century. So they're almost 100 years old, and they rate any asset security out there based on a lot of factors. And this is an article written by them.
Yeah. Gunny says I'm in the doghouse tonight. My wife watches the show sometimes, so honey, I hope I'm on the doghouse. Silvergate Bank, Silicon Valley Bank, and Signature Bank. Beyond the fact that they all start with SI, the real commonality is that all 3 of these failed banks were friendly to crypto businesses. In fact, Circle had some of its cash reserves for its USD stablecoin parked at each of the 3. This is why the USDC lost its peg to the dollar at the very height of the banking panic, as investors worried whether liquidity would be compromised.
Went as low as 88 cents per dollar, guys.
Yeah.
And people were still dumping, scared.
No bueno. Additionally, Silvergate and Signature were 2 of the major banks used by Coinbase Global. So these financial institutions were critical pieces of infrastructure for the US-based crypto businesses. And the mainstream narrative is that this exposure to crypto was a direct cause of their downfall. But maybe it's the opposite. Perhaps Washington created some of these issues and is now conveniently using crypto as the scapegoat or worse. This could be part of a scheme to use a much larger banking system problem to simply remove the crypto world's access to traditional US banking resources. I know that sounds a little too much like a conspiracy theory, right? Well,
it's Friday.
Yeah,
Conspiracy Friday.
When in Rome. Well, even if this seems far-fetched, it has already happened before. This is precisely what the government did back in 2013 under a program called Operation Choke Point, which is not just a fetish, by the way. The idea was cutting off banking access to businesses it did not like, including firearms dealers and payday lenders. And although the government publicly stated it was not going after any particular industry or any company operating legally, plenty of evidence has since contradicted those claims, right down to the Internal Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation emails, or FDIC.
Yep.
I don't like that acronym. Some prominent figures in the crypto world have labeled recent events as Operation Choke Point 2.0. But is this an accurate statement? To start, let's examine the evidence bank by bank in chronological order.
Yes.
Silvergate was the first. Go ahead.
Yes, guys, pay attention. And I'll grab this article and post it so you guys can have access to it so you can do your own research. Go ahead.
Yeah. So to start, let's examine the bank's evidence in chronological order. Silvergate was the first to make big headlines. It had a high concentration of its business with crypto firms, many of which were feeling the pinch of crypto winter. No, that's true. However, there was one big issue that caused panic about Silvergate to accelerate. Senators continually and quite publicly hammering the company about its relationship to FTX and other elements in the crypto-friendly business. In fact, Silvergate ended up voluntarily unwinding its business
Mhm.
because the industry and regulatory developments. It did not really fail. It quit the game under intense pressure and scrutiny.
Yes,
Do
and
you hear
we've
that?
covered this subject even before the FTX failure, how much there was this pressure. And
Yep.
so it's all related, guys.
That is, when we started hearing more about the problems at Silicon Valley Bank, the firm was highly focused on the technology industry, with many crypto businesses falling under the larger umbrella, and it is easy to see why SVB got in trouble. A lot of the bank's young startup clients, even riskier enterprises in an already cyclical sector, were experiencing downturns and needed to pull more and more cash. Even though much of the bank's money was parked in normally safe assets such as the US Treasuries and agency mortgage backed securities, these assets faced significant losses because of the Federal Reserve's recent actions. Then the rumor and preemptive withdrawals exacerbated, I hate that word, by a tight knit group of venture capitalists and tech titans tweeting. Ooh, less alliteration. Tech titans tweeting. Cascaded the situation into a classic bank run. Now, was there mismanagement on SVB's part? Of course. But one of the largest factors leading to its collapse was a historic round of aggressive interest rate hikes that made mincemeat of its safe balance sheet assets. This was the Fed Reserve, or this was the Fed raising rates until it broke something. Do you see that? They
Mhm.
like intentionally kept cranking on it, and then they just returned it to the store because it broke. But they were misapplying it is the idea, right?
And they just said again, they're going to hold rates at the very least, or they will not reduce rates until something breaks. Guys, they already broke something. They're going to continue their path.
And SVB was hardly unique in its exposure to the Fed induced pain, which brings us to Signature, a smoking gun that proves this could be as much about cutting off crypto funding as it is about preserving deposits. Ah,
Pay attention.
S- SBNY had already been reducing its exposure to crypto businesses to alleviate any concerns regulators or investors might have. This is despite it already having an incredibly diversified list of customers, many of whom operated relatively stable industries. In
Mhm.
fact, in a special update, the largely posted to ease growing rumors and a resulting market sell off, SBNY said it had intentionally reduced its crypto related deposits down to $1.51 billion, and that deposits from other areas were actually rising. It also reminded everyone it did not trade or custody digital assets, nor did it accept them as collateral.
That
What
is
about it?
the right move.
Right. You don't want to play like that.
Yeah.
Uh, what about its reserves? While it had plenty of underwater treasuries and other safe assets of its balance sheet, the
Treasuries.
vast majority of those were in the hold to maturity category. This is the case for many other banks, including big names like Citigroup, Wells Fargo, and Bank of America. Most important, on the same day that the New York regulators decided to seize SBNY, the US government, specifically the Fed, Treasury, and FDIC, announced its program to backstop any of these problematic assets anyway. They're going to bail them out, is the idea. So we're left wondering what the systemic risk cited by the regulators was exactly, and we aren't alone. And here's where you go ahead and whip out your tin foil, make a
Yeah.
nice little hat, put a little Gucci sticker on it. You looking nice. Um, Barney Frank, a board member at Signature and one of the two architects of the Frank Dodd Bank legislation that went into effect in the wake of 2008's global great financial crisis, told an interviewer, I think that if SBNY has been allowed to open tonight, that it could have continued. We have a solid loan book. We're the biggest lender in New York City under the low income housing tax credit. I think the bank could have been a going concern. Frank continued saying his beliefs, or he believes New York regulators decided to shutter the bank because they wanted to send a message that crypto is toxic.
So, guys, look at who was affected by this.
Right.
It wasn't just crypto industry; it was people, and same with Silicon Valley Bank. These were banks that serviced the technology industry, and in this case,
Mhm.
the SBNY actually had a board member that was part of the legislation of the Frank Dodd Act, which
Mhm.
was to protect depositors in this industry. And they even claimed, guys, we had solid books and we could have kept going. And yet they were
Right.
shuttered. And then as soon as they were shuttered, now there's these ways of saving banks, FDIC, we can backstop. So please look at how this was targeted. Just look at the fruits. And one of the guys that was part of the legislative body serving as a board, even saying, we were shuttered. We didn't
Right.
even get a chance to service. And now everybody's affected beyond crypto.
It's nuts. Yeah. And for their part, regulators denied that allegation, responding that their decision was based on the current status of the bank and its ability to do business in a safe and sound manner on Monday. They followed up with the revelation that SBNY was also being investigated for its dealings with crypto firms and whether it took adequate steps to monitor its activities for money laundering. But that would clearly be a separate issue from the bank's ongoing viability. Regulators also denied allegations that they would require any company acquiring Signature to stop doing business with crypto companies as well.
That was a
However,
condition.
when the FDIC subsequently sold off most of Signature's assets to a subsidiary of New York Community Bancorp, or NYCB, digital asset related accounts were not included. Instead, those deposits were to be returned directly to their owners. We can only hope that more details emerge in the weeks ahead, because based on a quick analysis of SBNY's business relative to other banking peers, it is hard to understand why it was singled out, and without more evidence to the contrary, Frank's assertions make a whole lot of sense. That was precisely the conclusion reached in a follow-up piece, the Wall Street Journal Signature Bank's crypto execution too. And it is why the U.S. House Majority Whip, Representative Tom Emmer of Minnesota, sent a letter to FDIC Chair Martin Gruenberg asking whether his agency was really attempting to purge legal digital asset entities and opportunities from the United States. If true, it is impossible to ignore the irony of the traditional banking system now being used as a weapon against crypto-friendly businesses and the entire crypto ecosystem.
Yep.
So you can clearly see how they're kind of using bad policy as a weapon against people having sovereignty. And that's the issue. Like, why would you not want people to hold these digital assets? Well, you don't control them. You're not the middleman. You're not the gatekeeper. And you have a system that you've gotten very wealthy off of and very powerful off of by simply being a gatekeeper, right? And so you're no longer needed. And so these are kind of like the death, rattle of the traditional banking institutions, because they're realizing that the game is up, right? They can't keep doing this forever. Enough people are aware that they're taking advantage of people in general, and this system is going to fail at some point because it's a bad system, right? And we have a solution for it now, and they're trying to squash us so they can keep playing charades for a bit longer.
And FedNow is coming in July. That is all this, what you're seeing is clearing the path to that, and they're going to pin it on crypto.
Yeah. So, this article is certainly pretty long. So,
it goes deep dives, guys. So look into it, do your own research.
Yeah.
This is not Weiss Ratings is not a fly by night. They've been around forever, almost 100 years. In a few years, they'll hit it. This is a good article, and it frames everything that transpired. So be aware, understand that and this is coming, when FedNow is released, you watch. There's going to be something going on with the crypto industry, and they're going to pinpoint to it. Operation Choke Point is literally what was one of the big adoption hurdles at the beginning for crypto or Bitcoin. Let's speak Bitcoin. Was the on-off ramps. Well, banks started to get involved, and Coinbase had these relationships with these banks to on and off ramp from fiat into Bitcoin and back and forth. Well, they just shot the three biggest ones, not realizing also that they would take down other massive ones as a consequence of this action. So all of a sudden they are like, oh, don't worry, we're backstopping. Everybody else except these three. And of
Yeah.
the survivors of these three, no crypto. So you can sell everything you need, no crypto. So these actions are very clear on what the resolution or the goal is
Right.
to introduce the CBDC for everyone to be watched in the end. They say a little bit by the other articles, but just like the Patriot Act, which the Patriot Act was deployed as an opportunity during a crisis, which makes sense. You want to stop terrorist money moving around. But thanks to that act, which has not been repealed, now US citizens are asked, where did this come from? Where are you going with this? Now they have to ask.
It's like in Germany. Show me your papers. Show me your papers. It's the same thing.
Yep. And now they have to ask. Once Fed now or the CBDCs are released, they don't have to ask. Not only do they not have to ask where this money came from or is going, they can actually seize it or expire it. And now other systems that exist in China now to control their citizens will be fully deployable in the United States. All we need is one more crisis to now go full retard on it. So be careful, guys.
Right.
Stay cool.
Yeah. And I'm literally not going to read this article, but just so you know, Jim Cramer said he wouldn't touch Coinbase stock. So you know what that means. Yeah, okay. Well, so keep on fighting the freedom fight. Make sure you are DCAing Bitcoin and holding it in your own self-custody. Practice that, Dirty Shovel Gang. I see you. Happy Easter, everyone. I hope you have a lovely time with your family this weekend.
Yes.
And until next time, keep calm and huddle on. This is Decentralized TV, Crypto and Coffee. I'm the Data Lord's Jaime, and we're going to awkwardly dance until you leave. So, it's fine.
Yes. And watch it. Keep your head on a swivel. Good advice, guys, on the chat. Go. DCA. Huddle on. Let's go. Article is in the chat. Read it. Bitcoin, you sassy girl, you do what you do best.